as Brian, because Brian basically took you everywhere that he went. What was it like at that time for you?
Well, obviously I worked for him, you know, for 14 years, and when I met him as a 15-year-old, he was different from any other man I'd ever met. And my mates at school used to say, "What's he like?" You know, Brian Clough. You know, when I was a 15-year-old kid at Hartlepool, and I said, "It's just different." And they said, "What do you mean he's different?" I said, "Well, just says things differently, and he acts kind of differently from any other man I've ever met." And when I finished playing for him when I was 34 years old, people would say to me, "What's Brian Clough like?" And I said, "Well, he's just different from anybody I've ever met." I said, because that was him. He spoke differently. I think as football players, he made the game simple for you, which was obviously a massive asset, because you're not the most gifted academically footballers, so the simpler you keep it, the better we might be able to perform. And obviously with the group of players he had here at Nottingham Forest, he managed to be the best psychologist in the game alongside Peter Taylor, because psychology is 90% of management when it comes to football players. And if he teaches you how to play the game and you think, well, okay, I'll try that, and it works out and you win the game, and then you try it another game and you win the game, you're obviously going to go along with his philosophy. So the players carried out his philosophy to the T, and found out that it benefited them, all the other players in the side, and eventually the results that we got proved that.
Football today is all about looking at the opposition and their strengths and their weaknesses. I understand from talking to quite a few of the players that Cloughie just kept it simple, didn't he?
Well, we never discussed the opposition, because he just said that if you do your job and you do your job, we're going to win the game. I think that possibly the best person to describe this would be Neil Webb, who said that when he left Nottingham Forest, where Clough used to come in the dressing room at 2:45, just have a casual look at the players, maybe light a cigar and blow smoke in people's faces, you know, just to get them on the toes. And then he went to Manchester United at 11 o'clock. You've got to turn up and you've got to file that thick about the opposition that you've got to try and read and understand. And if you worry that much about the opposition, obviously you can't be that confident yourself. So Clough just dismissed the opposition. You know, if we play well, we'll beat the opposition. Why should we worry about them? We concentrate on our game, and that's what we do. And he never changed from the days I was with him at Hartlepool as a 15-year-old to when I was 33 years of age and leaving Nottingham Forest. He never changed one bit. A lot of people said Brian Clough mellowed in his later years. I didn't actually suspect that of him at all, you know. He was always the same. And I've been asked by people how can you describe Brian Clough in one sentence? And the only way I could is say that every time he walked towards me, having worked for him for 15 years, I didn't know whether he was going to shake my hand or bite my head off.
We had the night last night where there were a lot of the European Cup winning players here talking about that time. Not many, you were one of them that did, but not many mentioned Peter Taylor. Obviously we've now got the Peter Taylor stand. How big an influence was Peter on that time?
Well, Brian needed Peter. He was, obviously he'd worked with him at Middlesbrough when he was a player, became firm friends, obviously had the same philosophies on how to play the game. But Peter Taylor was the chief recruitment officer, you might call him now. So he recruited most of the players. From when I played for him at Hartlepool, Derby County, and obviously he wasn't at Leeds, where Clough kind of fell out of grace. But eventually when Peter joined him here at Nottingham Forest, he was the one that would sign players, would know which players to sign in which positions, because when it comes to modern football, there are various formations that managers want to put the team out as. You know, 5-3-2-1s and 4-3-3s, whatever it is. But, you know, from the age of 15 till 34, I played 4-4-2 system, because it's a simple system. It's the best way to counter-attack. You don't play a striker up on his own, because he needs someone to work with. And it was very, very successful, obviously, for Clough and Taylor, and for me as a player playing in that system. Once again, I'll stress, you know, 4-4-2, that's an even system, and it's easy to understand. Again, I'm not sure if footballers are capable of changing systems during a game and carrying it out successfully. So the simpler you keep things, the better it is. But Clough and Taylor were just geniuses, and it's strange because I feel a little bit embarrassed stood here saying that I want to congratulate Fawaz Al-Hassawi for actually naming it the Peter Taylor stand, because his was as much a contribution as Brian Clough's for the success we had at this club. And for someone to come over from Kuwait and realise that before somebody in this country realised it, is a little bit embarrassing, but you know, I'm glad it's happened because it's about time.
Cheers, John.
He just said to me one more, I've got no idea. Shall we talk about Dougie's diamond formation instead of 4-4-2, or do you just want to finish with a Cloughie story?
Well, the answer to that one's no. Right, Cloughie story. We've won the European Cup for the second year in succession. The media of Europe descend upon the city ground just to get a word with this manager who just does things differently, says things differently. And the Sunday Times newspaper, which was a broadsheet in those days, in other words, a big paper, send their top sports journalist up to do a 2-page spread on a football manager, which in those days was unbelievable. This is pre-satellite television, pre-global product, whatever it is. So anyway, the guy from the Sunday Times comes up, talking to Brian Clough, saying you did brilliantly at Derby, Brian, you won the league championship, you got to the semi-final of the European Cup, but amazingly you've come to Nottingham Forest and you've even bettered that record. But the way that you talk to people, Brian, and the way that you speak to people, it's almost as if you think you could do anything. And without hesitation, Clough said, well, actually, I was a lumberjack in the Sahara forest once. The guy from the Times goes, yeah, Brian, I'm sorry, I've got to correct you there. You know, the Sahara's a desert. Yes, it is now. What a job I did on that one. Thank you. Have a good night. Have a good night, everybody.